Well, our first off speaker, let me reintroduce you then.
Sure.
Is calling you from Tokyo. Uh, is John Baumlin, and he will be talking about taking back your data with the presentation title "Give Me Back My Data." So, John, go ahead and take it away.
Give me back my data. You damn corporations. So yeah, and yeah, I am living in Tokyo, but my heart exists in Kansai. I originally I was living in Nagoya for quite a while, and well, that's still like not really Kansai, but I lived in Osaka after that, and I really love the area. So thanks everyone for coming today, and thanks for
I,
really just taking an interest in.
I've got something that says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Thanks, Alex, for getting back.
Yeah.
While we're working on your tech side, we'll get John to start speaking first, and then we'll work on yours next.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Cool. Glad you guys get that worked out. And I'm glad that everyone who kind of like came here today is really interested in working with encryption. So the last talk that I gave for Nerd Night Tokyo 2 months ago, or about 2 months ago, was about Hong Kong and encrypted messaging. So how you can talk to people using encryption. And it's not always like the most convenient thing in the world. I'm not gonna lie, but if you can really make use of these technologies more in your daily life, you can really lower the profile that corporations and governments and all these not necessarily bad, but actors who are trying to use you as their product away, and you can actually really just take control of your life and of where your data is and how certain entities treat you. And a big part of that is using free and open source software, using encryption, and self-hosting. So by doing that, we really get the opportunity to just, you know, if you're going to go out and hang out with your friends, like it's just you and your friends hanging out, and you want to recreate that experience online, a good way to do that is with encryption. So the data is only going to the person that it's intended to go to, and you can do that by using a lot of different softwares. And today I'm going to set up from scratch. We're going to do something a little different, a live demonstration of setting up a completely new server from scratch using the software Jitsi Meet. And Jitsi is really cool because it only requires a web browser, doesn't require anyone to install anything, doesn't require anyone to know anything about the software. When people start using Jitsi, they just drop a link and then you're connected in your browser, you hit OK, and then you're talking. And it sets up an end-to-end relay with the other person, so that data is automatically encrypted when it's going back and forth. So the goal for today is for everyone to just kind of demystify everything, demystify the process of setting up a server. So you can just jump in. You can come back into this video, and just tomorrow's Mountain Day in Japan. So if you have a day off, if you have really 20-ish minutes, as I'm going to attempt to do really fast, you can set up a server. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And I'm going to keep it really simple. We're going to be setting up a DigitalOcean server, which is a pretty cheap server process. And I'm just going to share right here. We have the, we should see just the backend for DigitalOcean. So all I did from here was I put in my credit card information, I set up an account, and I created a Ubuntu 18.04, which is a Linux operating system, Ubuntu LTS long-term support droplet. So I just started a server, and I'm just going to hit Launch Console right here. I'm going to switch that over. I'm going to share the console screen so you can all see that. And as you can see here, we just launched into a brand new console where I just started this server. So this is brand new from scratch. Let's do it. So I'm just going to follow the guide, and I'll give Raymond and everyone else the links so they can follow the guide afterwards. And you can actually refer to that if you need to throughout the process. Using tutorials is not like a sign of weakness or anything. It is learning. Tutorials are learning. So always use these good references by people who usually develop the software or are very, very familiar with using it. So the first thing we do when we set up a new server is we need to make a new user. Right now we're the root user. And if your root user is doing everything and someone gains access to that, you're in a lot of trouble because then they have access to your whole server. So we're going to add a user, and the command for that is just add user. And we're going to make a username called Jitsi. And that's going to need a new password, and Unix being very, very secure and all of that won't show the password on the screen, but I am entering one. I will hit enter, and then I will confirm that. And then it'll ask me a whole bunch of information, like what's your full name, what's your room number, what's your work, like what's your phone or whatever. It doesn't matter. You don't actually need to even enter any of that. Just hit enter, 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 yes. So you make a new user. So now I have a new user, but that user can't do anything. The user doesn't know anything. It doesn't have any permissions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type user mod -ag sudo Jitsi. Now the user mod is user modification. That's the command for changing user permissions. And there's these two flags AG. And if we ever don't know what those mean, we can just type man for manual on the user mod command, and we can figure out what the heck these flags mean. We see them in guides all the time, but they're really right there. So it's append for A, and then G, capital G for group. So I'm appending a group. So I'm appending a group to this user. So hit Q to exit that. It says that right on the screen for you. -ag, remaining a sudo super user do. I don't remember what the do stands for, but you'll get used to it. So super user do Jitsi. So now this is going to be a super user and be able to execute the commands we need it to execute. But before we switch over to that new user and actually install Jitsi, one thing we're going to do first is throw a firewall on our server, just a really, really basic security measure so people can't just access it willy-nilly, any application we're hosting. We only want people to access the applications that they actually are like intending to access. So what we're going to do here is we're going to type UFW app list, and it says the available applications, open SSH. Now, what this console is an SSH console. It's a secure shell console that you can use to connect to talk to your server. The reason why like it's laggy here, this is not because of Zoom or anything else or the stream. It's because it's just like directly connected to it, and it can't. It just needs to have like a very direct connection. So we're going to allow that connection through OpenSSH. And normally you would set up keys or something, but we're just going to use a password for now, just to keep things simple. First project, enable that, and then we're just going to type UFW status to see that it's open and working. And again, this is not like you don't have to be you're probably like, oh my God, what is UFW user mod AG sudo? I don't know. This is all written in initial server setup guide on DigitalOcean. They have tons of great guides. I'm not being paid by them. I'm just saying that this is a great resource for you to get started. And they're all very clear. Okay, so we're pretty much done with that part. We have the firewall set up. So the next thing we need to do though is that between Jitsi on our server and our users, there's this big thing called the internet. So we're gonna have to set the server up with a host name. So when it gets accessed, the server kind of understands it's to configure it with the domain name service and recognize the networking. So the first thing we're going to do there is we're going to switch over to our new account, because we always install things on new accounts, separate accounts. So if that application is compromised, you don't compromise the whole system. And we're going to type sudo hostname CTL, which is kind of the suite for controlling host names, tool suite. And we're going to type set hostname. And then you're going to type your domain. So when you set up a domain, you need to go to a domain provider like GoDaddy, Namecheap, one of these, and set up a domain directly so just that's going to be what people type in the address bar. So I have a domain set up already. It's jitsi.nerdnite.xyz. And we're going to hope this works. I just registered it earlier today. It can take like a few hours sometimes for all the UN domain name servers to recognize like all of the internet connections to the different domains. So that does take a little while to propagate through all the servers. And if it doesn't work right away, that's all right. I have another demonstration, but this is the process that you're going to use regardless. And then it's going to ask for my password because I used one of those commands. I put in that password. And there you go. And it should have ran. And we can confirm that just by typing hostname. And there it is, jitsi.nerdnite.xyz. Perfect. Okay, so we're almost at the point where we want to actually install it, but we need to do one more thing for networking, which is tell our computer that this is actually our local host, that this isn't just something on the internet, but the loopback address to the local host is actually this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here, and localhost is already there, but we're going to type 127.0.0.1, and we're going to type jitsi.nerdnite.xyz. And this is just, again, telling your computer that to accept these local connections, that they're accepted on your internal network. And there you go. So we're gonna expand that firewall connection a little bit. As we did before, we set up the firewall, but we're going to open some more ports on the firewall for internet access, which is usually port 80 for normal HTTP, and port 443, and just going to use a couple other ones. Like, I guess, like, you remember those old games you used to play when you would have to like forward the port on your router or something, like when you played like pretty old video games back in the day? That's what we're doing right now. We're playing StarCraft. We're forwarding the ports for Jitsi's application, kind of, and we're really just making sure that this works. Except we're going to actually be using encryption and supporting Hong Kong, unlike Blizzard. So little jab there. But those are all the ports. So sudo UFW allow for each port and protocol. And those are just specific to Jitsi and a web server. So those are going to be different for every project you install. Some need them, some don't. But once those are all open, you can see it. They all say allow. We're good to go. So now let's actually install Jitsi. So the first thing we're going to do when we install a new software is make sure that the software we are downloading is actually the software that the developers are serving. So what happens if we have like 80 different host servers or whatever, people downloading this application over and over, and one of them puts like malicious code in it? We don't want that to happen, and the developers don't want that to happen. So what they do is they have keys that we can download to actually check that. You're going to wget the key, and that's just the address for the Jitsi key. And then we're going to type sudo apt key add .jitsi key.gpg.key. And as we're going by, I just noticed that Jitsi key said permission denied. So why did that happen? That happened because I did not act as a super user. I didn't type sudo. So if that ever happens to you, what you can do is you can type sudo exclamation mark, exclamation mark. An exclamation mark, exclamation mark just uses the previous line and puts it there. So I don't have to like type that out again. And now it's going to go and it's going to download. And always look at your system messages. They're actually very, very helpful, unlike on Windows. So that's in. So now that I have the key, I'm going to add the key to my repository, and it says it's OK. So that means that the package manager has the key, and we're sure that that's correct. So we can get rid of it because we don't need it anymore. We're feeling good about this. And again, that permission denied came up, so we're going to hit sudo exclamation mark, that's gone. And then we're going to just add that Jitsi source into our package manager. Our package manager is basically a tool that's going to download the program for us. And unsurprisingly, that download link is deb for Debian, which is Ubuntu based. Download.jitsi.org, stable. That's just the stable version of Jitsi. So we're just telling our computer, hey, you're gonna be downloading this when we update, because when we update, we're gonna update everything at once. We're gonna update our security updates, we're gonna update this, we're gonna update Jitsi, all of our programs. We don't ever wanna have to update our programs individually. We're just gonna type apt update and it's gonna go and it's gonna pull everything from this source. So let's do that. Sudo apt update, and we're going to update the list. And you can see that it's not just getting Jitsi stable, it's getting a whole bunch of security updates as well, because this is a brand new server. And then we're going to type sudo. And now that Jitsi is in there, I'm actually going to type upgrade as well. Make sure that that's all good. It's going to download 198 megabytes of updates. And you can see that only takes a few seconds when you're doing it on giant server bases, and it installs it quite easily. And every time these things install, I usually like to get a beer. I got the nice like Nite glass. I'm really happy about this. It's like exactly 12 fluid ounces. So it perfectly fits a beer. Like I like that it's like a beaker because it's kind of like you can test different beers. It's easy to pour for friends, things like that. But as this installs, the computer is doing a whole lot for you right now. And we're going to see that more in a script that we run in a few minutes. And after this is done, we're going to really just be at the point where we just install Jitsi Meet, and then we're going to configure it, and that's it. So that's really the whole process of setting up a server quite easily. And it's 81%, 83, 87. It's like very exciting green progress bar here. And it's great when when everything's all set up, because when you just run it, it just updates automatically. Like so much of this is automated compared to 5 or 10 years ago. Documentation is really pivotal. So now that that's just about done, so 98%, 90%, 98. Show me 99. That'd be great. The last thing it's doing is just processing all the triggers so we can input for each database and everything. Let's go. Live demonstrations are always fun when something less than expect it happens. Let's just take a few seconds. There we go. Generating. Updating certificates, 99, and we're about done. Yeah. There we go. All right, so it's going to open a, it opened a package manager for me. So I'm just going to say, or package configuration for me. So I'm just going to say, just keep the local version. I don't really mind. Let's just keep all the basic local stuff done in there. And it says done. Okay, great. So let's sudo apt install Jitsi.
Just want to remind you, John, that
Yep.
that's 20 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Yep. So we're gonna install it right now. We're gonna hit the install button. Is that okay?
Keep
Good?
going.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. And yep, that's going to install. And that's pretty much going to be it. There's going to be some specific configuration options here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put in Jitsi dot nerdnite dot xyz. We're going to hit OK. And then we're going to generate the certificate. It's going to be self-signed, so it's not us just yet. And it's not going to be too difficult to set that up with your DNS. So this is pretty much just the full process of actually installing it. And I'm going to skip for now just to get to the end, thanks to my warning from Raymond here. Normally we want to configure this to just so the authentication is only for specific users. But there's all details about that in the DigitalOcean tutorial. But it's really not that hard. But one thing I do want to cover really quick in just a couple minutes here, as so we wrap up, is that we need to use something called certbot. And certbot is the certification bot that basically validates HTTPS certificates. And the HTTPS certificates are really important because they are basically what validates encryption in between your computer and an internet source. So we're going to do that. And Jitsi Meet, we don't have to really do anything for it. Jitsi Meet has a script already prepared for that. We're just going to type sudo apt that, install that, and we'll pretty much be done. And since we can't do any of the user configuration and stuff today, I'm just going to run the shell script right here. I'll probably do a little demonstration just on an existing one I already have for my own political work, which is on jitsi.tokyo.democrat. And I think what was planning to go last, because we changed the order. I think I'm gonna set that up and then give that to Raymond after Alex is done speaking, and then we'll drop something in there for everyone to use. So just a little bit of fun for everyone watching today. All right, I think we'll come back to that in a little bit, but really that's it. It's completely installed at this point, and we just need to configure it a little bit, but I'll use a pre-configured one to show you the final result. So I hope everyone has a little more confidence about setting this stuff up. All right. Since I'm at time, Raymond, I'm gonna let you take over, and we can do a test. We can do a test afterward. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, John. That was man. Certainly the first time I think we've had somebody who just used the command console to present everything.
Yeah, I would love to run a test actually on this server. So maybe we can do that afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. chunk it everything into the chat, and we'll throw it onto the YouTube as well. Maybe if we have time after Alex's talk, and
Yep.
like we
Yeah,
kind of do
sorry, that
a
went a little over.
end thing. We'll
I'm an Emacs user, so it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy to see that.
Yeah, right.
so we will.
Linux and
Yeah.
Emacs. So.
We got time for questions. So if anybody in the Zoom they want to write into the chat any questions, or they want to unmute themselves, there's a command that you can do hand up, and so we can call on you. And anybody on the YouTube, they can also toss into the YouTube chat, and Katie will keep an eye on that for us. But Alex, did you want to have an additional comment on that? Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. It's nice to see, Linux being, I've got a Windows machine that I'm using for this, but my kind of preferred sort of thing at work, and I've been running a Linux system now for, I think, earlier than 2002. So I had a Gen 2 system that was going for 15 years until the hardware broke. So
It's fantastic.
pathetic, yeah, I know.
No, fantastic. 15 years of uptime is really good.
Yeah.
I want to note,
Hardware was what died, so.
15 years is a good amount of time. Yeah, so I guess like the really fun part about this stuff is that you can run it on anything. If you have an old laptop that you're not using, you have a Raspberry Pi. You don't need to get a DigitalOcean server. You can run it off anything you want, as long as you have everything configured with your router properly. I did actually forget to throw in my email for that cert bot, but I just ran it again, and then I put my email in. So if yeah, but it's just always watch your console. The things it tells you are just like much more helpful than you would expect. I think a lot of us are pretty used to like growing up in this era, using Windows 98, 2000, ME, Vista, like all that stuff, and an error happens, and it's just like a box, or it's just like a RAM address, and you're like, it tells you nothing. But when you're using, the nice thing about this stuff is when you're using server consoles, like it actually tells you like what the error is, and it's quite easy to figure things out and search online, because if you're getting an error, someone else probably has already gotten that error and asked the question already. So it really is fun and easy to do, and I really encourage everyone to give it a shot.
Do we have any questions from the Zoom participants or the YouTube comments? You just go ahead. While we're waiting for any kind of comment to come in, I had a question on that. I think this is the first time I've ever seen an actual server being set up like this, and you've gone through the motions really well, and we see it, but it still seems, I think there's a little bit more homework that I think like just even a normie like me would have to like go through. Would what you showed us, is that a good entry point to like start up, or is there like some kind of more user-friendly tool or activity that you can do that can actually kind of maybe even get you interested in setting up servers, or kind of taking more control of your own data?
Yeah, one of the easiest things you can do is I mean, the first thing I did was set up a Mumble server, and that was pretty nice. That it doesn't have like the encryption feature that Jitsi does, or the ease of use, because people need a client and then use that client. So I think the best thing you can start out with is just something that any end user can use, and then put the brunt of the homework on yourself. So when you do get it working, people can actually use it, and it feels a lot better. Like that reward is a lot higher. There are some basic things that you might want to use, like CD is change directory, LS to list out all the files in a folder, PWD is present working directory. There's some basic like Unix stuff, but you will pick it up as you do tutorials. Like I said at the start, tutorials are learning, and the stuff that I presented today, it was a little fast. We came up against time, but it will run as soon as it's configured and everything. It will run just fine once it's started up. There's just a couple extra commands we have to run to start it up, but they're all pretty well listed, and documentation these days is great. It is so much better than the Gen 2 15 years ago era, where you really had to like prod and fix and figure things out. Like the documentation today is literally like start from zero, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And the way you learn more is like, well, what does that do? Like user mod minus ag sudo. Like what does ag mean? And if you keep asking yourself like those questions and you keep figuring those out, then you'll pick it up very, very, very quickly. If you just want to like zoom to the one thing that you want to do, like the one application you want, you can just use the tutorial. But if you want to actually learn more, and as you run into problems and you Google those problems, then that's when you really start to become faster and more experienced at it. But I think Jitsi is a good, like, it won't take you 20 minutes. It'll probably take you 2 hours and a little bit of learning about DNS. But it can be a good first project and pretty useful in today's era.
And yeah, Jitsi being a video chatting software as it is, if you don't want to use Zoom anymore, then
yep,
setting something up like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. We have time for maybe 1 or 2 more comments or questions.
There's Matt's asked a question in the group chat.
Oh.
He says, what kind of load could a Raspberry Pi server run?
What kind of load? What kind of what?
Load
is what it says.
Oh, load. That depends on the Raspberry Pi.
Hold on. You might want to explain like load and what Raspberry Pi is, just in case people don't. Just so people understand what those 2 things are.
Yeah. So load is kind of a general catch-all term, I think, for just the amount of performance that a device can give. So, obviously the limiting factor in self-hosting is your home internet connection. So if your home internet is like 10 Mbps, you're probably not going to be doing too good. But if you got gigabit internet, that's fantastic. And also power. Power is like a good limiter. If you have like 4 or 5 computers hooked up, you're going to blow out your circuit breaker probably, as I have many times. So it really depends on what your home utilities allow you to do. But you can run a Mumble server off a Pi. You can
just quickly, what's a Raspberry Pi as well?
Raspberry Pi is a completely self-dedicated computer that's on a chip that's this big. I have one. I'll go get one after Alex's talk maybe and show you. I have one sitting right over there, and it's basically a completely self-contained computer that you can just plug into your Ethernet and just plug in like an SD card, and you can run a whole computer off it and connect to it through your local network. So if you want to run a server that's on all the time, so because when you turn your computer off at night, probably, unless you're me, but most people turn their computer off at night. You're running a server that people want to access, like a website or Minecraft or Mumble or Private Bin or a Nextcloud or any of these open source alternatives to applications that we use every day. You want it always on and always available. So Raspberry Pi is a great tool. Fun. It's really fun do-it-yourself weekend stuff, honestly.
All right. With that, I don't see any kind of comments coming from the live chat on YouTube.
Can I ask a question?
Oh.
We got time. So like very, very normal low-level stuff. What would be the main purpose of wanting to set up your own server for video chat? Like, so end-to-end encryption, but like when is that necessary, I suppose?
When you have friends in Hong Kong. But I think it's good all the time because if you look at like Discord's like terms of service, for example, it basically says that like they own everything you talk about, and they've definitely like moved to a situation where they're really analyzing like through an algorithm everything you say and like recording it. Like it's in their terms of service, like, and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna start moving to like recording what people type and doing analytics on that, and they'll call it like anonymous statistics and analytics, but they're like taking all of your data for their business use. So you know, I would try to use it as much as possible, and the use case improves the easier it is. So if you have something, I love browser stuff. If it opens in a browser, I really like the application. And that's really possible with self-hosted stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, at least I feel like for text chats, like if I'm using Facebook chat
IRC
like
server is easy.
Yeah. But yeah, I always had the idea that if you're talking, if it's a video call or something, then they don't really listen in so much.
Yeah. When you a Raspberry Pi might not be the best depending on your home connection for video chat. I would definitely use a server for that. This is a $10. There's actually on the DigitalOcean page. I'll post this for you guys can share this with the YouTube chat because I was just referencing it throughout, and the initial server setup as well.
Oh, you're sending it directly to me, and it's not onto the everyone.
Yeah. I can, if you can post it in the. Oh,
yep.
Yeah. Thanks. They have like a nice table that's like, hey, how much load can you get for like this kind of server, and like based on how much bandwidth you have, and then you can adjust. Like for a $10 server, you can probably keep like under, like I'd say like 10 people pretty easily on this application for video conferencing. And if you want to go like up, like there's like a point where, you know, and you know, all these different applications, they have different service purposes, uses, features, depends on what you want. Working on the back end is fun because you don't have to like worry about how things look. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna put these into the Zoom chat, and Katie, if you can put that onto the YouTube as well, that'd be great. We'll make this available when we make these talks public. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to finish up with John's talk. John, you said before we leave, you said you had the server is up and running.
Oh yeah. So the server that we just created live from scratch is good to go. I'll share my screen briefly and then drop the link. So if you can see, we have the console. And you guys can see the console right now?
Yep.
And so basically the last step, the only step that we couldn't show was configuring the initial user and connecting it to our internal network. That's pretty well defined in the guide. And as we can see, we did a little status test, and we can see that the server is currently active and running. And I have it running right here. If we just go right here, and then I will show you the actual screen, and it is right there, and it's running, and I'm just kind of chilling. And I will drop the here's the link in YouTube, and you guys can maybe after the talk we can have a beer and we can all talk together before I blow this server up and destroy the droplet tomorrow or morning.
Could you oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, there, yep. I got it. I'm gonna see if I can get on this right now. Yep.
And this is I saw a comment from Christina that said, "Hi John, I don't know much about computer programming, but your presentation was interesting. Thank you." And I just want you all to know that you don't need to know any programming. I'm pretty still learning programming more deeply. But yeah, if you just drop this up and pull this up, and you can get this working pretty fast.
Oh, I need the mobile app on this thing.
Oh yeah. So Jitsi, the open source developers, they have a mobile client app as well that can be used.
That's not a that. I don't know. Just the opening. Oh, you can't see it, but the opening screen is like a really just like this weird guy with a
It's probably Unsplash default graphics. Something they pulled out for free.
What's on the open source free image use of like generic white guy?
A good open source image site is Unsplash.
Mm.
Unsplash, they don't require any like attributions, though you should give them, to the best of my knowledge.
Excellent. That's good. I might actually use that for work.
Yeah, and I can see. Yeah, I can see I'm connected. I think you just joined, Raymond. Is that right?
Did I? Hold on. Let me. God, what am I doing?
Yeah, I think I'm in now, so I can hear.
Oh, you're in, Katie. Yeah. So I can show on the screen, if I hover over your name, the end-to-end has a little bit high, but I'm highlighting over the end-to-end RTTD, which is the delay between our encrypted communication, and that's loaded encrypted right there. So it works. All you have to do is just follow the guide, and anyone who followed along today can definitely do this tomorrow if you want, with you and your friends, and it's really handy, especially when you're like, even in a professional context, when you're like, oh, should we meet on Skype? Should we meet on Zoom? Should we meet on this? Should we meet on that? And it's like, oh, here you go. Here's a link. Let's just join up the day.
Jitsi.nerd.xyz. Oh, wait, hold on. How do I do this?
I haven't used the mobile app specifically, but it's good that they have it.
You're sending me to the Jitsi.nerd. Okay. Oh, cool. Well, definitely you'll check that out, and I will make it available. And the links that you showed are good if people want to just kind of figure out. Just it's the second day of a 3-day weekend, so if people want to give it a shot.
Yeah, I'll leave it up like today. Well, yeah, I mean, I have an authentication on it, so I can't just you can't actually create a room, but yeah, it's all available there on the DigitalOcean tutorials. Cool. I'll leave it up as an example tonight.
All right. We don't have any more additional comments or questions coming in, it looks like. So, yeah, I think with that, we can bring our talk to a close here.